Hey y'all, it's Michelle, the Southern Shell, and I am here with another new collaboration, and this is the homie Gnomies. This is a collab that is all about gnomes. You can use whatever you like as long as you're creating a gnome. This is hosted by Tiffany with Simply Blessed Crafts and Clari by Clari's Creations Part 2. Now let's get into the video. I'm showing you the ribbon we're going to use. These books I actually made several years ago, and I had coated them with some very light wax so that they could be used as key rings and such so that they wouldn't get damaged. Then I had taken one that hadn't been attached with a key ring yet and put it aside. This bottle I have gotten from a friend. They saved me all sorts of things. This lace ribbon I got from Walmart. The satin ribbon I got from Walmart. All of the bee ribbon I got from Walmart when I made a gnome for the Super Bowl a few years ago. So I went ahead and measured out the sheer ribbon. I took the wire out of it and I measured it to go up the sides of my bottle. The ribbon does not fit across the front of the bottle, so I went ahead and just folded it in half and tucked it into the mouth of the bottle here. When I got that all together, I went ahead and put some hot glue. Well, first of all, I wanted to make sure that I could get the lid back on it, and I could. So I want to make sure it's still fine, and I put the hot glue in the middle of that ribbon. Then I used some of the Fabri-Tac around the cap. Then I went ahead and screwed it on so that the hot glue would hold that ribbon instantly, and that Fabri-Tac will grab on that lid and that ribbon to hold it for a long period of time. I went ahead and used a small little clear band. A lot of people will use these in hair, which is perfect, but they're also perfect for crafting. I'm going to tell you I should have glued the sides down first, but I also didn't want that glue showing through that sheer ribbon. So I went ahead and just used the Fabri-Tac on my polka dotted ribbon and laid it down right on top of that bottle where I put that Fabri-Tac glue. You can still see through it. I should have spread it out better and not just left it in little rings, but I am going to fix that as I continue along. I'm going to go ahead and use my decorations to cover up those edges and the inside of where I had used the Fabri-Tac on that ribbon. I'm going to continue around here folding down my ribbon and using my hot glue to lay that side down so that it will cover the edges over the sheer ribbon just a bit. As I'm doing the back side of this, I'm coming down and cutting that ribbon just a bit, and I'm going to wrap it around the neck of that bottle, crisscross it so that it looks, it pulls it tight around the front. So I have another length of ribbon. I pulled out the wire across the bottom, and I used that top wire to actually create a ruffle for the skirt of this little bee. I used the wire in the back to actually twist it together so it would stay tight. Some hot glue down that back to hold it in place. And then we've got that skirt on our little bottle. I used a little template to trim out my little fuzzy beard here. Some Fabri-Tac glue, and then I'm going to lay that right on the front of that bottle, covering up where that Fabri-Tac had shown through that ribbon before. We're going to smooth that beard right on down, and I'm going to use my fingers to create a straight edge. This is why I'm not a beautician, guys. Look at how crooked I cut that beard. I'm going to come to the back of my little bottle and trim off that wire, and you've seen me use my little wire cutters to roll that sharp end right on up into the back of that skirt. I took a small piece of my striped and covering the back of that to make it look like the top of her little dress is in stripes and not polka dots. I'm folding it right on down, gluing that around the neck, so we have got a nice comfy collar around this bottleneck. I'm doing another long piece of ribbon, and this is going to be her arms. Now I wanted to make sure they were long enough, so I did cut a little extra ribbon than I needed, but it worked out just fine. I'm going to fold it in half, find my center point, and then I'm going to glue those arms right on down to the back of my bottle. Once that is on there, I'm going to go ahead and pull them forward. I'm going to use some more glue to fold those arms down at an angle so that they come out a little lower than across the front of her face. I'm measuring my little book. I did crisscross and measure those arms, and I cut the extra off. I'm using another one of my little bands to create a little ponytail in her beard. And now I'm going to create her hat. I measured this out at 9 inches and I needed 5 of them. No, 7 inches and I needed 5 of them. Now I don't want this hot glue to show through this ribbon, so I held it tightly together and did a small bead of hot glue along the seam of those ribbons as they touched together. I was very careful with this. I laid the bead of glue and then I came right on in and used my finger across the top of that to spread it out over the seam that I just created. Now you can do it different ways. Use your finger protector if you need to. Unfortunately, mine are a little bit numb on the tops these days because I've done this so many times. I'm gathering the tip of that little hat and I am going to fluff the bottom out. I need to create a rim to the bottom of this hat because I'm not going to put that sheer ribbon across that bottleneck because you'll see it. So I went ahead and I'm going to lay some hot glue on the top of that beard and the front of this striped ribbon right on down. I'm pulling around the sides of that, making sure that it is straight so that I can create a little brim to this hat. Once that is done, I went ahead and folded the inside of that ribbon down just a little bit and glued the tops together. I went ahead and squished together my little hat and hot glued it onto the top of that bottle. I'm adding the book to her little arms, and then we are going to find a nose for this little lady. I went into my little beads, and those were too small, so I went ahead and pulled out a wooden bead, added a dot of hot glue, and then propped her little wooden bead in there with the holes to the side and pulled up that little the little beard around it. I went ahead and cut another long piece of that sheer ribbon, folded it so it was I found the center, glued it together, ruffled it up, and then glued it straight onto the back. Now I went ahead and adjusted the hat. I adjusted the wings by cutting them in half, and look at how adorable this little bee gnome fairy turned out. So, like I said in the beginning, this is a collaboration. These ladies' channels will be listed in the description box below, along with a playlist of all the lovely crafters who did attend and participate in this collaboration. It was so much fun. Who doesn't love gnomes? I know there's some of you out there, but this is a love gnome collaboration for sure. All right then, let's go on to project number 2. I have my fun fur and I have some refrigerator magnets that I've had for a while. I trimmed out the fur and I'm going to use my Fabri-Tac on the front of these magnets and attach my little fun fur. Now I went ahead and went through my seashells, and I'm going to show you what exactly I did here after my beard was attached. I went through my shells and I had some broken pieces and I had some big pieces. I had some heavy pieces, and it just was kind of crazy. So I went ahead and put the mustache on the top of my little beard there so I could have it a little bit separated from the bottom beard. the reason I did it this way is it was such a small piece of that fun fur that it was not very thick and it was just kind of scraggly. So I went ahead and added a separate piece for the mustache. I used this broken piece of seashell here and attached it with some Fabri-Tac glue. Once that was held on down there, I went ahead and added some hot glue to the back so that it would help to hold that in place while that Fabri-Tac glue dried. I wanted a little bit extra for the fur and the seashell because it's a little heavier than fabric for a hat. I went ahead and found a little bead that would fit perfectly on this for his nose and attached that right on down. The second one I'm making a little lower. I'm not covering up that whole magnet. You'll see why here in just a moment. I did use the beard and the mustache a little separate. I added on some more Fabri-Tac and some hot glue. Then I put a whole seashell on the top of that for the hat itself. Found me another little tiny bead for the nose, used a little bit of Fabri-Tac and plunked it right on in there. I think that turned out really cute, and now I can hang them up on the refrigerator for refrigerator magnets. I think they turned out really cute for this particular idea. And here they are on my refrigerator next to my hanging spice containers, my magnetic spice containers. What do you think about these? As I was looking through my seashells, I found those elongated ones right there. I don't know the names of these shells, guys. I'm just a crafter and I just love finding things I like and putting them together. So I took another little piece of my fun fur, I rolled that up, and I put some Fabri-Tac glue in the center of that shell, poked that right on in there, used a skewer to make sure that I could get it all the way in there and it would be nice and secure. I straightened out the beard and I found me a little bead to put down as the nose once again. So I think that these are a little different here, but I think they turned out okay. I'm not putting magnets on them because this was a very small seashell. After I trimmed off the beard a little bit and put that little bow on there, I went ahead and got out some pin backs so that I could create these as little brooches. This didn't take long at all. I've got my brooches here and I've got my little pins. I wanted to make sure that the point of the pin where you hook it is at the bottom of that seashell, as close to that bottom and the top of the beard as possible. Did both of those, set them aside and let them dry. Now this is what they look like, and look at my poor little white shirt. It's so covered with fun fur. On to project number 3. Now this little project and the bee one, I couldn't decide which were my favorites. So you guys let me know which one's your favorite. I am using some Magic Cloud Crayola, the Magic Cloud clay, which is air drying. I was impatient, so I did put this in my oven after I created these mushroom tops. Look at that, mushroom tops, super adorable. I went ahead and just rolled it into a ball, used the bottom of a vase to press it out, and then once they were done out of my oven, I glued on with some, oh goodness, quick and thick onto those mushroom tops. I did dry them in my oven at 170 for an hour. It worked perfect. I used some hazelnut on the bottom of those mushrooms all the way across. Then I took some wet water. Yeah, water is wet, guys. I wet the top of my mushroom and then came in with a little bit more of that hazelnut and brushed it across the top of those mushrooms. Look how cute that turned out, so realistic. I'm tickled. So once again, water across the top, dip the tip in a little bit of hazelnut, brush it across the tip of the top of that mushroom. I'm okay, I promise. And then set them aside to dry. So I used some medicine bottles that I've had on hand, and I painted them, 2 of them with the hazelnut and 2 of them with my Merlot. These did take 2 coats, but 2 coats was perfect. I'm going to use some Merlot on the bottom of my mushrooms with just a little dampness, and that Merlot just kicks up a little bit of color under that mushroom so that when it dries, it'll have a little bit of difference in tone. I've had this fabric in my stash for a while. I went ahead and trimmed off an edge, hot glued it, and then I went ahead and trimmed up into little sections like that of 4 hot glue and rolled it up to make the fringe for the top of a hat. Now I have different sizes here. This one is for the children, this particular size, and then I hot glued that in the center, hot glued across, rolled that hat, and then folded it over and hot glued it down the side once I knew the thickness that I needed. It was very simple to do it that way. A craft by my seat of my pants. It worked out great. It gave a little crisscross in the back for a little bit of design flair. There we go, not flaw. Look at that. It looks like I have a critter on my desk. The children gnome are going to use this brown color because they have not yet turned gray. I went ahead and cut out a little piece to fit across the center of that. And I did this twice, and on the first one, I went ahead and separated it to become the mustache. I went ahead and cut another little piece of that fabric, and I'm going to tie a little knot around the bottom of these to be on the little sister's mustache. Tying knots across these little tiny things is not necessarily an easy thing, but I did it a little loose so that I could have it and not have it pull on my fur too much. I went ahead and cut out another little piece. This is the boys, so I'm going to put the plain beard down first and then the mustache across the top of that. And when I get that all combed out with my little skewer stick, I'm going to just wrap it around that pill bottle a little bit better. Now, I'm not worried about the back too much because I made the hats to the size that it was going to sit over the top of that pill bottle and cover most of the back of that pill bottle. So a little bit of hot glue, actually I did a lot of hot glue across the top, push that hat right on down until it hit the top of that pill bottle. Pulling out my little wood beads, I took a piece of wire, folded it across, and looked at where it would fit nicely in the middle of this beard. Once I got it in there with that hot glue, all I had to do was pull my wire out and fluff it around those holes in my bead. I did trim up these beards a little bit because on the children anyway, they were just too long and sat out too long across the bottom. I pulled his little mustache out, gave it a little twist so that it looks so separate, and look how cute. And here's my little gnome family on picture day, standing next to their mushrooms. Look how adorable they turned out. And then we have our bee fairy gnome. She turned out adorable too. Oh my goodness, I just went crooked there, sorry guys. And then of course my nautical gnomes with refrigerator magnets. That looks a little funny laying down, but it's super cute. I'll insert the picture. And then our pins. You know, they were a little different, definitely different. Not my favorite, but I don't know what my favorite one is. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. This was such a fun collaboration. Look at her book. She's reading her book. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you've not subscribed, I hope you will consider doing so now by hitting that subscribe button. If you want to know when I've uploaded a new video, hit that notification bell and YouTube should notify you when I've uploaded a new video. Guys, thank you so much for spending time with me today. I do appreciate you. And as always, God stay safe, God bless, and bye for now.